Minister, welcome.
Thanks, Barry. Great to be with you.
Do you think that the Liberals would seriously put One Nation ahead of the Nationals, even it's just in the upper house in WA? And would that bother you? Would it concern you that there might be federal implications?
Barry, the One Nation of today is a very different beast to what it was 20 years ago. They're a lot more sophisticated. They've clearly resonated with a lot of people. Our job is to treat them as any other party. That doesn't mean we have to agree with their policies. We have to deal with them in the Senate. And so when it comes to issues of preferencing and the like, we have to make decisions. In this case, it's a state decision. It's not a federal decision based on the local circumstances. But my job, Malcolm Turnbull's job in the next couple of years, is actually to take votes away from One Nation, away from Labor, away from the Greens, and maximise the LNP vote. So I'm not particularly focused on preferences at the moment. I'm focused more on the policies that help us to get voters back.
But you say that they're more sophisticated, but how have they changed in any other regard? They haven't changed their policies.
Well, what I've noticed is the way the media treat One Nation today and Pauline Hanson is very different to 20 years ago when there was more of a concerted effort, including by the media, to campaign against her. The media have tended to treat her with a bit more respect this time around. I found that quite interesting. I think they're taking her more seriously because they realise that she's also changed the way she operates.
Yeah, they might, but does that then justify the Liberal Party changing a position that John Howard adopted in 2001 when he said the coalition would always put One Nation last?
Well, you look at these according to local circumstances, you look at the way these things have evolved, and this party has evolved as well. But as I say, I'm not focused on preferencing decisions, I'm focused on how we get those voters back. And Barry, that is a big issue in Canberra, not just a big issue for the coalition, but also for the Labor Party. And as one of your reviewers on the panel there said, there are a lot of people out there who at the moment are just mad as hell, as it were, and it's going to take some time for policies, I think, to seep through to them and convince them that the way of One Nation is not the way to go. One footnote on that, the bloke who came up with their 2% tax policy years ago has just gone bankrupt. Now, if this is sort of economic policy these characters are going to be running, I think it's going to be very important for us to make sure the public understand the implications of One Nation's policies where they exist.
Sure, but you think preferences would, to an extent, reflect values. Would you say that the values of One Nation are more closely aligned with the Liberal Party than the values of the Labor Party?
Well, look, Barry, if you want to take it down the route of values, when Labor preference the Greens in certain seats, does that mean they agree with all of the Greens' policies? Or when various parties preference each other, they have to agree with their values. Each of us have very clear values and we stand up for those values. For example, if you're seeking to ask me, would we ever go as far as some parties want to go in banning particular ethnic groups coming to Australia or religious groups? Well, our policy on that is very clear. We run a non-discriminatory immigration policy. We vet people very significantly who come to Australia, and we'll stand up for those policies very strongly when we're campaigning out there.
Pauline Hanson said before that the Prime Minister met with Queensland MPs, federal MPs, during the week. George Christensen wasn't one of them. Is that right?
Look, I don't know whether that is the case, but the PM meets all MPs. He meets George, he meets all of our MPs. In the case of Queensland during the week, they would have had a discussion about the general situation, given the imminence of a state election up there. And obviously, Queensland is a very important state to the coalition in a federal sense. You've seen the way the numbers can swing in Queensland, and we're doing everything we can through the various infrastructure and other policies up and down the coast to try and support economic development in Queensland. We know Queensland's been affected by the mining downturn, particularly in regional areas, and we're doing everything we can to promote strong policies of regional growth and industry adjustment.
But Tony Abbott made the point that when Cory Bernardi left, that the party should be doing more to remain united. If he didn't meet with George Christensen, then that would be a poor reflection, wouldn't it?
As I said, the Prime Minister meets from all his colleagues from time to time. In the case of George, what I think George Christensen is doing is standing up for his electorate. He's had issues around sugar. He's had other issues up there because of the downturn in the mining and related sectors. George is being a good local member by standing up for his electorate.
So you think he'll stay?
I'm not going to speculate on all that, except to say I think he's a person of some potential and I think he should stick around.
So you're not confident enough to make the prediction that he'll stay?
Well, I'm not in the business of making predictions. I just give you a view, and my view is that he's standing up for his electorate, he's got potential, and I think he should stick around.